This summer for Manchester United, it really is the biggest in a long time. And I know that I've said this pretty much every summer, but kind of every summer, the goalposts keep getting moved. And this summer is the first without the Glazers in charge. But what are INEOS going to do if Omar Barada's not in? If Dan Ashworth's not in? What I'm going to do in this video is run through the plans which are now kind of emerging as to who's going to be in charge, what the hierarchy is going to be, and what Manchester United fans can expect ahead of the summer. I'll tell you all. Make sure you drop a like on the video. It does make a big difference here on United People's TV. But of course, big news this week was that John Murtough is leaving. It was, in my opinion, inevitable and the correct decision. As good as the work was that he did with the academy, he was never fit for purpose as a football director. I said he was over-promoted internally. Different conversation, though. But John Murtough is gone. And Man United, of course, are stepping up the acceleration for the moves for Jason Wilcox and Dan Ashworth. Dan Ashworth, he's not going to be in charge as our sporting director before the summer, regardless. Okay, that's just my personal opinion. I don't think so anyway. So I think Man United are planning for this summer without Dan Ashworth. Jason Wilcox is a little bit of a different conversation. But The Athletic's done this article here about who is leading Manchester United summer transfer window. I'm going to run through this and also tell you a bit more information about what happened at Nice in the crossover period and if there's any lessons that we can learn from that. Now, of course, we know Omar Barada is not coming in until, I think, the 1st of July. He certainly starts working with Manchester United in July. So summer transfer window is already underway at that point. It's the Euros. He might be there for the month between the Euros ending and the Premier League starting and probably involved in negotiations from that standpoint. But in terms of planning for the summer, in terms of the May 19th until the start of the Euros, which is June the 12th, my brother's not going to be directly involved in that. Probably going to be on the burner phone, though. And it says down there that there is a lot to be done from a recruitment standpoint. And that's the understatement of the century. It's such a huge window for Manchester United. And it's going to be a window where Dave Brailsford leads. Okay, it's going to be Dave Brailsford here at the top, executive oversight. And now, I've said it from pretty much day one that Dave Brailsford is effectively our de facto CEO until Barada comes in. And again, we're just seeing more evidence of that. Matt Hargreaves, Andy O'Boyle and David Harrison are going to be involved in some form of, I suppose you can call it a transfer committee, if you want to call it that. Now, Matt Hargreaves was brought into the club. I think he used to work with Adidas. Let me go down here. There you go. Well, there you go. Worked with Adidas for 14 years. Sports marketing director, senior legal counsel, blah, blah, blah. He came into Manchester United and is our director of football negotiations. He replaced Matt Judge, who, of course, worked with Ed Woodward. The worst partnership ever. Matt Hargreaves is going to be involved. I mean, is he going to be the man that sort of changes? No, not at all. But he's going to be a man that sort of in the interim stopgap is there alongside Andy O'Boyle, who was brought in like 2022 as John Murtough's deputy. And you've not really heard a peep from him since. Very much a behind-the-scenes man. Maybe can help with the transfers. But again, I'm not getting massively good vibes on that. Oh, our transfers are going to be transformed with him. And David Harrison, who I completely forgot we appointed, by the way. He came in like 2023, I think it was. Where's the date? February 2023. And he's director of football operations at Manchester United. So, according to The Athletic, it's going to be those three working with Dave Brailsford. Now, Dave Brailsford, I'll speak on a little bit more detail in a second, but if Jason Wilcox comes in, I think it's fair that we can assume that he would take a senior position in this sort of sphere. It will probably be Dave Brailsford and Jason Wilcox with Hargreaves, O'Boyle and Harrison. I imagine that's exactly what Manchester United are planning for. But when it comes to Dave Brailsford, I think we can take a look at what happened at Nice in the summer of 2022. That was after Brailsford conducted his audit of Nice. And that's when changes started to happen. And that was a crossover summer. And it wasn't a good summer for Nice. I'll be completely honest. Right? Bob Ratcliffe, Jim Ratcliffe's brother, he was installed. Well, was he? He wasn't the CEO. I think he was. I'm not really sure what his job title was. But he was a senior appointment by INEOS. He was sacked by Dave Brailsford. Not fit for purpose. And going into that summer, Nice's transfer activity, it started slowly, because there was no sporting director in place. But instead of just rushing and making an appointment for the sake of making an appointment, Dave Brailsford delayed the appointment and waited for Florent Gassolfi to come in, who is now their sporting director. And he worked with Ian Moody, former Crystal Palace director And Brailsford and Moody ended up taking control of Nice's summer transfer window. It wasn't a good one, all right? Ross Barkley there was one of a number of experienced signings that Nice went for. They spent money too, all right? You can look down here in terms of the successful signings. I mean, none of these are really top first team players for Nice, I don't think, anyway. But look at the names down here. Kasper Schmeichel, Aaron Ramsey, Nicolas Pepe, Ross Barkley, who at Luton has shown it is a very good signing still. It was a summer that didn't really have... Nice had an early strategy of trying to sign established players, big names, like as far as they go, big names like Kasper Dolberg was like a 20 million signing from Ajax, and it didn't work out. So then they went, right, okay, you know what we're going to do this summer? Got an idea. Let's try and just bring in some experience like Schmeichel and Pepe and Barkley, and, you know, it didn't work either. And it wasn't really until the following summer where they had Florent Gassolfi in, and look who they signed the next summer, Terran Moffi, who's been a very good signing for them. But the point here I'm trying to make is that Dave Brailsford didn't rush in just bringing in a sporting director for the sake of it. He waited for the right man, and he actually took charge of that summer transfer window with Ian Moody, and it didn't work out. All right? I'm not saying that that's going to happen at Manchester United. What I would say is that I imagine things will be different at Manchester United because we have better voices to lean on. Omar Barada, he might not be our CEO, can work with us, but it doesn't mean that Brailsford can't pick up the phone and speak to him, presumably. And of course, you've got Jean-Claude Blanc behind the scenes. It's basically this summer transfer window is going to be a bit of a mismatch in terms of who is in charge of it. Ideally, we'd have the three of them in. We'd have Barada, we'd have Ashworth, and we'd have Wilcox, and everything would be like laid out in front of us. But this summer won't be as simple as that. From next summer onwards, from January onwards, that will be the structure that is in place, and I think we can have belief in that. But until that point in time, it's going to be Dave Brailsford overseeing what currently exists at Manchester United. Matt Hargreaves, Andy O'Boyle, Dave Harrison, getting the most out of them. I think when Jason Wilcox comes in, he'll take quite a senior role in this, and effectively trying to be Dan Ashworth until Dan Ashworth is here, sort of thing. But he made big mistakes at Nice. The whole bringing in Ian Moody, signing experienced players, it did not work. At Manchester United, he cannot afford to make those mistakes. I would like to say that I have massive, complete confidence that Man United can get this summer transfer window right. Truth be told, I can't. There is a lot to do and a lot to get right and a lot of players that we need to get rid of and just a lot that we've got to change in one window when we don't have our sporting director in, when our new CEO can't start until July the 1st, and our technical director has resigned but still can't currently start. Maybe Jean-Claude Blanc can help, I don't know, mediate? Maybe not mediate. Can throw his voice into the ring. Jim Ratcliffe, maybe. According to The Athletic, he's been meeting some managers in different, behind the scenes, kind of doing far more active than the Glazers were. But ultimately, it's on kind of Dave Brailsford as to whether or not this summer goes correct. As I've shown there, wasn't particularly successful at Nice, but there's better voices, experience, whatever you want to call it. This summer's going to be I really want to think that it's going to go completely well. But I'm worried, if I'm honest. I think that's fair enough, considering we don't have the right people in charge. Not quite yet.